Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to demystify something that, well, you actually experience every single day, whether you realize it or not. We're going to uncover the true strategic science of public relations. I mean, we constantly see corporate statements, press releases, those carefully worded brand apologies, but what's the actual machinery operating behind the scenes there? Well, we are going to decode that machinery today by taking a really comprehensive look at the foundational principles of this whole field.
So here's our quick visual roadmap for today. We're going to cover Section 1, the true meaning of PR, Section 2, pioneers of public perception, Section 3, preventative and curative PR, Section 4, the four-step strategic process, and finally, Section 5, managing crises and challenges.
All right, Section 1, the true meaning of PR. Let's just dive right in by challenging a few common assumptions you might have about this industry. Be honest for a second. When you hear the term public relations, what actually comes to mind? Is it just a fancy word for propaganda? Maybe it's just marketing wearing a different suit? Or, clever corporate spin? Let's totally dismantle that pervasive idea right now because the source material paints a very different, highly structured picture. Notice how PR isn't defined here as just some afterthought. It's a deeply strategic management function. It's rooted in building mutual understanding, goodwill, and above all else, trust. So it's not just about pushing a message outward, it's really about managing this ongoing, two-way relationship between an organization and its diverse publics. This breakdown brilliantly illustrates the critical distinction between PR and advertising. Advertising is, well, it's basically a financial transaction, right? You're buying paid space to sell products. PR, on the other hand, operates entirely on earned goodwill. It focuses intensely on building long-term relationships. You can buy an advertisement, sure, but you absolutely have to earn public trust. Okay, Section 2, Pioneers of Public Perception. How exactly did PR evolve from what used to be a pretty chaotic, intuitive practice into a rigorous, historical science?
This timeline right here really gives us the answer. Back in 1906, a man named Ivy Lee fundamentally changed the game during the anthracite coal strike. Instead of hiding the facts, he advocated for radical transparency with the press, which set a completely new standard. Then, in 1923, Edward Bernays took it a massive step further. He actually introduced psychology into the mix, transforming PR into a social science and teaching the very first university course on the subject. Fast forward to 1965, and the International Public Relations Association adopts a global code of ethics that formally cemented that this profession absolutely must be guided by ethical standards, not just mere persuasion.
Moving on to Section 3, preventative and curative PR. To truly understand how PR operates day to day, we have to look at these two totally distinct modes.
There's this great quote directly from our source material. Building a good image and goodwill acts as a preventative shield for the organization against future threats. This is fascinating. What it means is that establishing organizational trust early on, like when things are calm, is actually the ultimate defense mechanism for when things inevitably go wrong.
To make this perfectly clear, let's compare these two functions side by side. Think of preventative PR as a vaccine. You're building goodwill, trust, and a positive image in advance of any issues, effectively immunizing the organization against future shocks. Curative PR, on the flip side, is emergency surgery. This is what happens when a crisis actually hits. You're managing rumors, mitigating active damage, and trying to heal the organization after an incident has already occurred. Both are totally essential, but, the vaccine makes the surgery much less likely to happen.
Section 4, the four-step strategic process. Let's step right into the engine room now and explore the exact scientific methodology professionals use to manage perception.
The sources map out a really rigorous four-step strategic process. Step 1 is research. Before a single word is even spoken, professionals measure public opinion and gather data. Step 2 is planning, taking that data and building the strategic roadmap. Step 3 is implementation, which is where the actual communication takes place. And finally, Step 4 is evaluation. This is where you measure the impact of the campaign to see if the goals were actually met. It's a continuous, totally data-driven loop.
The big takeaway here is that true PR relies heavily on the scientific method. By utilizing psychology and sociology to measure public opinion, professionals take public relations completely out of the realm of intuition and guesswork. Treating it as a measurable social science, that is exactly what guarantees long-term success.
And that brings us to Section 5, Managing Crisis and Challenges. For our final section, we're going to apply this science to the ultimate tests, high-stakes negotiations, sweeping organizational changes, and of course, what happens when the preventative vaccine fails and emergency surgery is suddenly required.
When a crisis hits, you have to follow these actionable principles. First up, act quickly, but never ever hide the facts. Silence just breeds suspicion. Second, communicate transparently with the media. Third, rely on a pre-existing plan, because you really cannot build a ship while you're navigating a hurricane. And finally, you must balance the organization's interests with the public's. If you look out only for yourself, the public will absolutely turn on you.
And this brings us to a fundamental truth highlighted in our sources. Ethical communication and a profound responsibility to the public must always be the absolute foundation of any organizational crisis response. Why does this matter to us? Because adhering to these codes isn't just about good optics. From a purely strategic standpoint, it is truly the only practical way to salvage and rebuild public trust once it's been fractured.
So I'm gonna leave you with this provocative question to chew on. The next time an organization issues a statement during a scandal or maybe a product recall, watch closely. Ask yourself, based on what we've unpacked today, are they administering a preventative vaccine or are they desperately performing emergency surgery? I promise you, once you know the science behind the statements, you'll never read the news the same way again. Thanks for joining me on this explainer and keep learning.